Adding and managing your users is one of the most critical things that you can do in your QuickBooks file to ensure not only that it is secure, but that only people that you want to have access to the information have access to it. Now, adding users in QuickBooks is very simple. All you have to do is go up to the gear icon up here and then select Manage Users under your company. Now, once you get there, you have two different possible user types that you can add. The first would be regular standard users. And when you go about adding standard users, think about this as maybe anybody who works internally in your company in AP, AR, payroll, anything like that. Okay. And when you add them, understand that not necessarily everybody should have full access or standard all access or company admin access. And there are actually specific roles and permissions that QuickBooks has pre-built in all of its file types. So when you add a user, I highly recommend reviewing the different user profiles and selecting the one that is going to best fit the role of the person that you are bringing in to your file. Okay, you can view all of these permissions by selecting Add User right here. And this is all of the information that you will need to add a user to your QuickBooks file. First name, last name, and an email. Then we have right here, select the role. So you can view role descriptions right here on this page so that you can take a look and make sure you're assigning the correct one. And then you can select that role from the drop-down menu here, okay? So you can see there are a few different items. Maybe if you have somebody who is going to be coming in and only dealing with accounts receivable, maybe the accounts receivable manager would be the right role. If you have somebody who's only going to be dealing with accounts payable, maybe accounts payable would be the way to go. If you have an employee and you only want them to be able to do time cards, then time track or track time only would be the option for you. But again, I do highly recommend looking at this more detailed role description to confirm which one is correct. Another thing to keep in mind here about adding users is that oftentimes in your QuickBooks file, you're limited to a certain number of users. So it's really important every so often to go in and confirm that only the people that you want to have access to your file have access to your file. And that is as much about security in the file as the overall fact that you are only allowed so many users. So for example, I have 5 users on my current QuickBooks subscription, and I only currently have 2, and both of them are me. So I'm not stressed about that. This is, after all, a sample file. But if I were running a business and I had a business partner, and I also had a couple of people working in the office who needed access, all of a sudden I'm getting close to my overall limit. So it would really be worth examining who I am granting access to and why. And if you ever let somebody go or stop working with a CPA or a bookkeeper or anything like that, it is really important to be sure to remove their access as soon as possible. Okay. Now you do have 5 standard users built into your QuickBooks Plus plan. That is the subscription level that I'm currently demoing in right now. You have more in Advanced, fewer in Essentials, and even fewer in Simple Start. Okay. So the number of users you need is actually one of the critical metrics that we look at to determine what level of subscription you need for QuickBooks Online. But you still have the ability to add accountant firm users, and you can do that by toggling over to accounting firms right here, okay? Now, you can have up to 2 accountants in Simple Start, Essentials, and Plus, okay? When you get up to Advanced, you can have up to 3 accountant users. Now, the beauty of accountant users is that if you are working with a firm and they might have multiple people working on your books, their users do not count to your overall user quota. Once you have granted an accountant access to your books, they can grant their team access to your books if that is how they are handling your bookkeeping or your record keeping, okay? So you have the option to invite up to 2 accounting firms. Oftentimes you might use one of these roles for your CPA and one for your bookkeeper. Otherwise, you might have a CPA and maybe an auditor, depending on your business type. So again, watching these, maintaining these, ensuring that only people that you want to have access to your file have access to your file is really, really important. Let's say you came in here and determined that somebody had access to your file that you no longer wanted to have access. You could select edit, excuse me, So since you are limited to a certain number of users in certain levels of QuickBooks Online, I frequently have people ask if it is reasonable or possible to have people share a login to the QuickBooks file. And the answer really is no. You don't want to have multiple people sharing a login to a QuickBooks file, and here is why. There is an audit log in QuickBooks Online that allows you to view the activity of the users in the file. Okay, if you have more than one person sharing the same login, that means that it will be impossible to tell who did what within the file. And while you hope that you never have to use the audit log for anything as serious as discovering fraudulent activity or anything like that, having more than one person use the same access dilutes your ability to use the audit log to trace any nefarious things like that, okay? Thank you so much for watching. I'm Holly from Accrual Mistress Bookkeeping and Consulting. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave those in the comments below, and have a lovely day.